In this video, I will be removing and installing new rear shocks and shock mounts on a 2010 Kia Rio. So main reason we're replacing the rear shocks is because going down the road, these things are making a hell of a lot of noise because they're pretty much shot. Car's got just over 80,000 miles on it in the suspension shot. So right and left side is the same way to remove them and install them. Pretty simple setup. First thing, I'm going to remove the bottom bolt. I already put some penetrating fluid on there. So for now, that bolt is just going to stay in there because it's under pressure right now. So it's easier just to leave it in there until we get the top bolts out. There's two bolts where the mount is up top. You're going to remove those two bolts. Once those two bolts are removed, this can be easily moved around. Now you can just slide this bolt out and the whole assembly comes out as one. Take it over to the bench. So here's your old setup, and here's the new shock with the new mount, washer, and nut. To get this off, I use my impact, which makes it much easier to remove. Now, if you don't have an impact, what you can do is use a wrench, and then use another wrench, because right here, on the top, there's like indentations. You can put a wrench on that, or vice grips. Because what would happen is the shock itself will move around, and these are lock nuts. So that's another way of doing it. I've done it like that in the past. I just put a vice grips on here, and then just loosen it. Until it's loosened, then it comes right out. Washer comes off. Shock mount comes off. This piece comes off. Now you're gonna take off the dust boot so you can reuse it. Highly recommend you throw in some oil or something to lubricate this area because it's got to come over this nipple. And that can be difficult. Okay. So now we take our new shock, take the dust boot right over it, slide that down. Let's take some work to get that down on there. There we go. So you slide it right over that ring. Like that. Take your cap, put it on there. New mount. So like that. Washer. And your nut. Tighten it down. Again, if you don't have an impact, start the nut, hold the top section with a wrench, and then just tighten it down until it's all the way down. So on the old one, you can see that if you push it all the way down, it doesn't come back up. Well, it does. This one does. It's real slow. Versus the new shock, which comes up a lot faster. So basically what happened is these over time will lose pressure. They'll leak the oil. They'll lose pressure inside, depending on what they use. And they're just junk. You'll hear that going down the road. It'll make a lot of noise, especially when you hit bumps and stuff. All right. I do recommend if you're going to do your shocks, even though the mounts, well, this mount still looks okay, but you got to remember, this thing's got 80,000 miles on it. And for the extra money, you're better off replacing the mount with the shock. One thing you don't want to do is put a new shock in and then 10,000 miles later, take it all apart and you got to do a mount. But hey, that's up to you. In the description below, I will have links to to the shocks and the mounts and stuff like that if you're interested. Let's go put this in. To put the shock back in, it's pretty straightforward. I would start with the bottom bolt, get the shock in there, line it up, put the bolt in, and just get it started by hand. Once that's in, go ahead and tighten it up. Go ahead and put your jack underneath the wheel assembly, underneath what some would call the control arm. So what you're going to do here is you're going to jack up the whole assembly, the whole wheel assembly, and line that shock up close to the holes. Don't jack it up so high that you can't move this around. Because now what we're going to do is you take the bolts, get one started, all right, make sure it's good. Get the other one started. Once you got those in, it's just a matter of tightening them up. Remove your jack. And there you go. Your rear shock is installed like it's supposed to be. Put your wheel back on. Don't forget, torque your wheels down. And that, my friends, is all there is to replacing those shocks and shock mounts on the rear of a 2010 Kia Rio. I'll be honest with you, it really is simple. There's only 3 bolts you got to take off. The hardest part you're going to find with these, obviously, the rust buildup on the bolts. Use penetrating fluid on the bolts. Let it sit for a day or 2 before you take it apart. That way it gets a chance to work in it, and it'll make it much easier to get those bolts off. And then spray it again right before you remove the bolts. That will make the job that much easier. If you have any comments, questions, put them down below. I'll be happy to get to them as soon as I can. Please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share our videos on your favorite social media site, and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos that's posted. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Till next time, God bless. Catch you on the next one.